Welcome back to the shop, everybody. Well, you probably have not seen much of this. This is the new shop down here in beautiful southern Utah. Well, there's not much here. It's kind of a blank canvas at this point. I don't even have lights out here. However, that's all going to change. This is going to be a dream shop when all is said and done here. However, there's a bunch of challenges to overcome before we start doing the really fun stuff like building workbenches and moving into the space. Let's talk about some of these challenges. If you listen to people on the internet, the correct way to do this is to build the most expensive brand new building and do everything flawless, top tier everything, and spare no expense. So step one, turn on the money printing machine. If you're like me though, and you don't have a money printing machine, that means you're kind of making do with what you have. I'm going to be doing that in this video, and maybe you are like me, this is a garage from the 1980s, because it's built after the house, which was built in the 70s. And well, there's a lot of problems with it. And we're going to be doing some workarounds here. And I'll probably talk about some of the proper ways to do it, and then the way I'm going to do it. Here's the 360 of the space. We've got a man door. I do have some tools out here already. This is a shared wall with my house. We've got some basement steps going in, and then we kind of turn around here. Backyard. Okay, looking pretty shabby. And this is what it looks like. Now, this space in here is 23 foot by 23 foot square, about 8 foot ceilings, and we have decades and decades of bad drywall from the previous owner. So there's a couple options. I'd asked some of you what you thought. A lot of people weighed in with some very expensive options. We also have around the garage door where they did a completely terrible job, as well as with the ceiling. It's quite terrible. Up here there's a lot to be done. One of the problems too is you can kind of see up here, maybe, there's a crack in that board. And then if we come down and we look across with a light, you can see that a lot of the boards do not line up with each other, and that is because the way they framed it, everything, like the studs are not in line. I don't know what you'd call it. The studs are not in line in the wall, so some of the boards are proud. What else? I've been laying out with the laser the studs, which we'll get into why, laying out the studs on the wall, and the studs, they put them up in the most like wacky fashion ever. Some of the distances between the studs ranges between 12 inches and 4 inches. So if I'm going to be putting anything on the walls, which that's the plan, I need to mark those out. So I'm finding them, and then down here at the base of the wall, there's kind of like a cement lip, I guess you would call it. And on that, I'm marking all my studs, because what you're sitting on right now is what's going up on the wall. Here I have a bunch of sheets of 5mm sanded plywood, right? And it's pretty flexible stuff, and that should span over any of the peaks and valleys created by the poor framing and the poor drywall. I'm not going to smash all this stuff out. I'm going to cover it up. Progress has been made out here. 2 of the walls have plywood up on them. I've done a lot of electrical work, which I didn't film much of. It's kind of a boring, annoying thing to try to capture, but a lot of that stuff has been solved. It was a very frustrating process. Let me explain. A lot of the 2x4s in the wall are not, they have like a little twist to them. And you have a junction box in that wall, and that means the junction box, the outlets on the outside of that, were I guess slightly more recessed. So I ripped all that stuff out of the wall and brought the boxes out more, made them so they're straight, and I think it looks great in here. Doing some stainless steel face plates on those outlets, and yeah, it looks good. It's bright in here. Now we got to do some more on-fun projects, probably work on the garage door, and we'll do the ceiling. Okay, I'm finally starting to feel positive, I guess, about this whole project. This has been massively overwhelming, but look at the ceiling now. Look at that. It is white, it is bright, it is repaired. Well, don't mind that back there. Look at this wall. Okay, I didn't film much of this, but it was mud tape, mud sanding, mud texture, PVA primer, paint. But let's look at the results. I mean, I know some people are not into a texture coat on a wall, but I think for a shop, a texture coat is nice, especially just rolled on, because it breaks up the pattern and it's very easy to repair. It's very easy to repair. I'm not like a drywall expert by any means, but I did the best I could. Same thing with the ceiling, all right? Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. So obviously there needs to be crown molding, baseboard trim out these windows, but to do that, I need access to some of my tools. So that's the next step, tools, and then we're gonna get some lights hung up here, and then we can get some benches built out here, and then we can start kind of really moving in. Here's my plan. I think this will be good. Those are the steps down into the house. I have these shelving units. All the shelves are piled up over there. This is gonna be kind of a de facto handrail system, because obviously you don't want to step into the void. But these are gonna get leveled and bolted together with shelves. It'll be good. These were all stacked and bolted together, and there's all these sharp little bits here. So I'm gonna have a nice wood tops on these. Over here, I'm gonna get a big shelving unit, and that'll fill that space. That'll be good. Then I can start moving some of my stuff in. And then I'll have access to some of my tools. It'll be great. It won't be piled up in my basement. That's just blocking out the sunlight right now. This will get dealt with as well. So these types of shelves, you know, you're gonna put some plywood on them. Now you can have things dragging across easy. It doesn't get hung up on it. And then down in the corners, I know it's dark, secure them with a zip tie because they do sit slightly proud. And that just makes it so as you're pulling stuff in and out of your shop racks, well, the plywood doesn't want to come with it. I got all of these installed. They're all bolted together. They're not going anywhere. Got the hardware store moved in with some extra space for other tools. We're gonna dress these up a little bit. One of the things I always regretted about the shipping container shop was just how much raw wood I had in that space. Now going back in time before my YouTube days, my old shop back in Oregon, I stained everything. I stained everything and I liked the way it looked. It really kind of like made the space look finished. It looked finished. So for these cabinets I just showed you, they're gonna be getting some wood tops on them, and you can see this finish here. It looks way better, in my opinion, than the natural wood. I'm not gonna coat anything. It's just gonna be looking like this. Now, this is a product I've only done this test with. Back in the day, though, I used all oil-based stains. This is my first water-based stain that I'm using. And so far, I mean, like this is, I like this. This is a good product. It's a million times easier to clean up. So, yeah, you know, I mean, we'll have at it and get these all stained up and they're gonna be looking good. And I like the color. I'll probably use this on some other aspects of the build. I almost forgot the most important part, and that's to put your shabby paint clothes on, because it is inevitable that this stuff's gonna get on me. Just because it's water-based doesn't mean it's washable, right? I gave this a nice shake earlier. Yeah, it's not like all that oil-based stuff. Not at all. Look at that. That looks a lot better than just some raw, rough wood. Put a little bit on here. Run it down some shop towels. See how it looks. It's only been like 20 minutes and already that is nice. If I seriously doubt this is going to be as good as like an oil-based, but for dressing up the shop a little bit, making some pieces of wood have a little bit of color, hey, I'm happy. You know, oil-based stains are, well, if you've ever worked with them, you know what I'm talking about. They're a mess. It's a whole ordeal, you know. Very good. I am pretty happy with how these came out. Much nicer than looking at the beat up wooden tops of it. Tools, more tools. And now that I'm getting some of my stuff, like my hardware store, out of the basement, we can start turning our attention to other things. There's a lot to do. Let's talk lights for a minute. So these shop lights, I have one plugged in over there, aimed up at the ceiling, just so that I'm not working out here in the dark. These are my old lights from my old shop. These are Harbor Freight lights. I have 3 in the old shop. I'm gonna put 6 in this shop. Now, these are 5500 Kelvin lights, and I'm pretty happy with that as a color for, you know, just like a general workshop life. So I have my 3 old ones. We're gonna do 3 new ones as well. I know some people are like, Harbor Freight, they're the worst. I'm pretty satisfied with these. These lasted for years in an uninsulated, climate controlled space, and they're pretty good. You can connect 8 of them in chain together. So I'm gonna get these open, we're gonna get them all hooked up, make sure they all work, do some layout on the floor, and make sure we like the results. You can always put more lights up and just leave them turned off, but it's harder to add them after the fact. So I have all the lights hooked up in sequence, so we should be able to test this and make sure they all work. It's like turning the sun on. I think that'll be pretty good. I'm gonna do some layout on the ground and we will see how this all looks. Not bad. This is kind of the layout that I think I'm gonna do. So there's going to be workbenches along this wall. There's going to be a work island here with machines and stuff. So I'm gonna have the power kind of run like that. So it's all hooked up, and let's see how that looks, and then we'll start putting them on the ceiling, I guess. I think, obviously it's aiming up and you're looking at it, but I think that layout will look really, really good. That's going to really illuminate this whole space, and then there'll be a light over there and a light over here, which will be on pull cords, not operated by the primary 3-way switch in the space. the absolute most important part here is that I have everything straight on the ceiling. Otherwise, I'm going to lose my mind later on in life. I'm going to be not use. They send those lights out with all the hardware that you need. We will not be using their hardware other than the chains. Chains are perfectly fine. The lights weigh like under a pound. They weigh like nothing, right? So we're going to be using these. I like these hooks for things. These, right? Like little hook with a little clippy thing there. They're pretty good, come with anchors. I'm not gonna try to hit studs or anything, so I'm gonna do all my holes 1/8, and then if it's drywall, well, it'll get upgraded to the 3/16, and we'll pound in one of these guys and get all this stuff nice and lined up. Pretty simple stuff. Oh, also, I'm gonna be using this thing, because like I said, if it's not straight, I'll lose my mind. But that goes on the tripod. I don't know where you're gonna go. Got that first one done. I'll show you this right here. You can see we're very nice and lined up. That's kind of trippy how it like illuminates that little like tube or whatever. So now this one down here, the next one that's gonna go over that way, we'll start there and then I'll move the laser and we're just gonna work our way around. And this has been a fantastic tool for this project. However, I don't like that it uses 3 AA batteries and it just kind of, well, it eats them. I wish this had like a rechargeable lithium option. But let's look at this thing, well, turned on. Oh man, when I get all of these lights in here, it's gonna be really bright. It's starting to feel like a real shop, which is exciting for me. So kind of my thought process here is, if I'm going to be having 24-inch workbenches, I want this light that's running that direction to be 18 inches away from the wall, so when you're standing at your bench, you are not casting a shadow, because you're not standing at 24, you're like probably a couple inches between you and the bench. So I'm thinking, yeah, maybe start the turn at 18. That'll probably be good. Have the light hanging there. You get a nice dispersed cone. You get some reflection off the wall and onto the bench. That'll probably be the way to do this. So that was convenient. I hit a stud there. You know, I probably shouldn't be complaining about my laser level, since, you know, back in the day, go right there. Back in the day, I owned one of the very first laser levels for doing dirt work. And that thing, well, first off, it was this like giant unit with this heat. You would wind up, it would scream as it would spin, but it took, I can't remember, 6 or 8, probably 8 D batteries, which was absolutely painful to replace. I don't miss those days. So having that little unit shooting that green laser sure is convenient. Okay, let's see how it looks. Oh man, that's really bright, camera adjusted. Okay, let's do a little bit of an exposure test over there. I think this is looking pretty good. Imagine there's tools and stuff back here. Camera is in full auto mode, f2.8, ISO 100. That makes me happy. Let's do a little aperture priority mode. F4, ISO 200. I think this is looking pretty good for video, you know? We can do some little like, do some of that, yeah. Yeah, okay. We will have to come back and look at this at night. Of course, we got natural light coming in through the windows over here. And also just like looking the other way at kind of the more, well, the stuff that you're not gonna see very often here, it's looking pretty bright. These are, I'm happy. This is plenty of light. And I mean, this is 6 of them. I could add 2 more to the chain of lights. We could do, here, let me show you what we could do. Just in theory, right? In theory, off of this one, goes over here, and another one straight down. That would look awesome, I think. For right now, I'm pretty happy with how this came out. Well, these 2 windows are kind of not making it, well, I'm dark right here. Dark right here, I guess. Let's go back over. Check that out. Oh, that's so much better. Okay, the windows are making it very, not a good test, I think. Come back tonight, flip these guys on. Workshop, making a real workshop. I'm gonna let you in on a little secret that Big Trim doesn't want you to know about. All of that trim that you see at Home Depot for $3.50 to $5 a foot, well, with some basic tools like a router and a circular saw, you can make your own trim for about 20 to 80 cents a foot. And I'm using plywood for the workshop, but you could do MDF or any other type of material that you have. You know, you want to do cedar? You want to do hardwood? Hey, it's all up to you. Whatever your router bit profile is will produce that trim for you, and I think the results speak for themselves. Got the windows all trimmed out here. Pretty happy with how that came out, and I think the reveal is as good as it's gonna get. Happy with that. That looks pretty slick. We got some curtains coming. The sink is here. This is a very specific sink that I wanted for this project. Most sinks, okay, these kind of like basement style utility sinks do not come to 24, right? They come out a little further. A lot of them are 28s, but we're doing 24-inch wide benches here. And I didn't want this to extend well beyond that. And I wanted it, you know, we have a little bit of a taper to the sides. I wanted to be able to center it under the window, and that will help establish the length of this bench. This is also a kind of a unique tub. It's kind of hard to tell on camera, but a lot of them just have a singular slope going back. This one's got a nice 4-way slope, which that will be good for cleaning rocks. And now we are on to workbench activities. So along that wall, we're gonna have a workbench, and then it's gonna turn and come up to the sink. And this is the workbench plan, okay? Across the wall, we're gonna be 13 feet, and then coming towards the sink, we'll be 7 feet, 11 feet of kind of working space in one way, and 5 feet in the other. These corners are they're kind of dead space, to be honest. I might put like a little shelf, triangle shelf or something going up, but that's kind of what I'm working with here. I bought some wood today. Now, this is painful. This is painful. $4 a 2x4 is the price. Painful. I know some people will be like, well, you know, buy local. We don't have that option. I have a Home Depot here, and that is my only lumber supply. So I ripped apart a whole stack to get 20 good sticks, which is upsetting. And what's even more upsetting is that they have no longer done just staple labels. They printed on these things, these hateful prints, okay? So I'm sanding off every single label. Since I'm gonna be seeing it for a very long time, I don't wanna see Stimson junk printed on my workbench. There's other issues that we gotta overcome, but I have a plan. You can kind of see here, if I was to build a workbench and just press it up against the wall, it would hit this and we'd have a gap behind the bench. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to put a series of like kind of ledger boards up against the wall for the top and the shelf, and we're going to be building off, so there won't be any back legs coming down. It's going to be supported off the wall, bolted in, not bolted, but like attached to the wall, coming out, and there will be supports on the ground, of course. It's not going to be like a cantilever design, but that's kind of one issue that I have to work with, but it should end up just fine when all is said and done. A lot of this is going to be screw construction for the bench, and we're going to be show you that stuff in detail, how I build this thing. I like these. These are very good. This is great hardware for building a workbench. However, the price is another painful thing. This box of 50 cost $26. Now, these have these nice flat heads on them. Can you see that? Yeah, that's called a spider bit. You need a spider bit for it. I guess the hole would be a spider hole. But these are 2 7/8, so this will go through the plywood on the wall, which is 1/4 inch, and through the 5/8 drywall and into the studs. So we're going to be marking out on one of these 2x4s and using a Forstner bit to recess this head some so that it's not sticking up proud. And once we get everything nice and true and level here, we should be good to go to start doing some more basic bench construction. We're not going to be doing anything super fancy here. We're going to be focusing on 36-inch-ish tall benches running around the perimeter, and we'll be able to start moving our lapidary machines out, which that's got me excited. This whole thing here, I want this to be one continuous bench to just about right under the window. The end of the tape measure is at 13 feet. We do have a little bit of a sloping problem here. And if we set up our beautiful little laser buddy there, we can see, this is just approximate, of course. Okay, about 35 1/4 plus a 3/4 inch thick plywood top brings us to 36, which is quite nice for having a machine and working at it, because you're, you know, kind of around here, which that's a comfortable height for me. But as the floor steadily slopes away down here by this end of the windowsill, now I'm going to use this to my advantage. We are 37.5 about, plus 3/4. That's a little high for some machines, but for some it will be, it'll work. So that's kind of my plan here, is to shoot this laser line and putting the first board up on the wall. Status update here. These boards establish the location of the workbench. This is, I don't know, 34 1/4. So that, 35 1/4, so that when I throw some 3/4 inch plywood up here, we'll get to about 36. You can see, well, there's the Ocelap. I don't think I've even ever shown this on video. Bought this thing for 200 bucks. 3 trays, brand new, basically. That's going to have a cantilevered top workbench. The bottom bench is going to end over there, so that we have the shop sink, the Ocelap, workbench, and you kind of see some of the framing here. I'm going to have my drill press here, I believe, and this is just the start of it. You can see we're all in there, lagged into the wall. Trying to build this corner post out because that's where the drill press is going to go. That is just to establish kind of the squareness of it, not really a strength thing. But yeah, just gotta do some framing. Probably not gonna show a whole heck of a lot of that. It's pretty simple 2x4 construction. So this is what 10 hours of workbench design and building gets you. I wouldn't say it's done being framed out, but it's getting there. I ran out of wood. Everything is cross-braced. It is beyond solid. You're gonna be able to put an immense amount of stuff, whatever, on this bench. I'm very happy about that. I'm gonna probably do some more bracing down there just so that it is a forever item in my life. Now let's talk about this because in my old shop, I had a nice little area to sit. Obviously I wouldn't be using that little tiny stool. So you can have some machines that you might want to sit at right there. This is not a mistake. I did that intentionally. So in the future, if I want to run a board across here, this is already notched out. And then, you know, just continue the shelving here. So we have that shelf. You can see how this is built for the Ocelap. This is super strong. This like lagged into the wall. There will be probably another little cross support running back down to the wall and just make it so it is as solid as can be. But the shop is starting to come together. I dig it. There's a couple more features that I still need to work on here before putting anything else up. This is just a 3/4 inch thick piece of plywood, similar to what I'm going to be having on the bench. Yeah, this is the thing. I'm going to have some supports under here for running any kind of water lines, things like that. So I need to go buy some more wood for this. Yeah, water lines, power, things like that. I'm going to have a couple of power strips, long power strips under here. It's feeling homey in here. It's feeling good. The real test, the level doesn't lie. I think that's workbench acceptable. This is my pile of extension cords. And if you're anything like me, well, you also have a pile of extension cords. I think there's 8 here. And you end up using them because you never have enough power, right? It's just part of having shop. These things are on the ground. You're tripping on them. You're stepping on them. I'm not doing that anymore. I am over that. So thanks to Amazon Santa Claus, the solution to this problem of these things being all over the place is here. I've thought of this. I want this. It's what I want. It's the thing. Oh yeah, it's here. Look at that. You know, the thing is, the reason I'm showing you all this stuff is because it's things like this that really make a huge difference in a shop. And I'm telling you, like, I've dreamed of all the different shop things that I could do once I got a shop like this. All those cold times, cold days in a shipping container, I'm just like, power, lights, all the things. Okay, there's like 9 million more things to do though. Benches and an island and water, it's coming. It'll take a little bit. Okay, so I have been very, very busy. Let me show you what I've been working on. Check it out, the shop is really coming together now. fully built 3x6 work island. All the bench tops are in, and well, some of the next big steps to come, other than reducing my pile of stuff over there, is we got to get some machines in here. If I'm going to lay out electrical and plumbing and routing all that stuff, we got to get the machines in here. That's the next step. That was a lot of work. Some of these things are heavy. Mostly this guy right here. This guy is really, really, really heavy. I'm not sure on my placement just yet, but let me show you what I got. So that's the base of my drill press that can go right here. Then I can have access kind of on both sides for drilling things out. I might switch the Richardson's high-speed sander and the carpet wheel, so like, you know, flop those guys around. HP wet belt sander, pretty good, pretty happy with this guy. This buffer wheel's entirely pointless. It's really just a wet belt sander. Now, you can see that overhang. So this is the two-wheeled arbor that I built, and I built it for my old workbench, which was 28 inches. We're like 23 3/4 here. So I kind of knew going into this that this was going to have overhang, but the base is wood, so I can just kind of move the motor mount more this way a little bit and trim off some of that back wood and get this guy tucked up against the wall. This arbor is not done. I'm going to be running the Lordstown SS hoods, and I think that's a good place for it because it allows nice and easy access into the trim saw. So I have that. I do eventually want to have another arbor, so I'm kind of leaving a place for that arbor. Intarsia machine, flat lap, obviously Oscillap down there. And I think that makes up the majority of my lapidary machines. Vise is going to go there on the corner. Space will get filled down there with some different machines. Stuff that I don't really use that often can go down on these bottom shelves. And part of that I'm going to hold off on simply because I'm going to have water. Water is kind of the next big thing. Obviously I have a sink. So back there in the corner I can run hot and cold PEX. That hot and cold PEX line is going to come along the top of the ceiling. It's going to drop down right about here. Okay, it's going to drop down, and then we have the sink. Okay, so we're going to have hot and cold water going to the sink. The next kind of thing is I have machines that need water here. That needs the flat lap needs water. That takes a cup. Arbor, that thing. Those guys, they all need water, and we need a way to get that water out of this building. So, my plan, hot and cold water, come in here. Leaving will be a mixer valve. Okay, so mixer valve, because I don't want cold water or just hot water, I want mixed water. Mixer valve is going to feed a PEX line that goes all the way around to here. And each one of these machines will have a valve that I can turn on and off as my thoughts and cut the system. And then the sink and these machines will have a piece of PVC pipe running underneath the bench and will be the drain. And I won't be using any kind of chemicals or anything out here, so I can just drain right outside and that will be fine. It will just be rock sludge and clean water. I also really like this big space above the machines. I can put some shelves up there. I think it's going to be pretty good. The water part should be interesting, but also Sarah made these sweet curtains. Check that out. How fun is that? I dig it, because the sun comes blasting right through that window. Yeah, I'm not gonna bolt these things down except for this guy and the drill press. I wanna kind of look at these for a little bit because I'm gonna be living with them, well, for a while. So that's going to be a thing. I am not gonna have any wires running out the front either. Everything's gonna go through holes in the back. Hey, Leica. So this is going to be an aspect of the shop build, which is probably the most important aspect, but also one of the things that I like the least, which is plumbing. Now, as a lapidary, and if you are a lapidary, you've probably been here at one point or another, and the feeding of water to these machines, you are doing something like taking this, which is a little pond pump, and you go fill up a bucket of water, and you use a flexible vinyl tube like this, and you pump out of that bucket. It runs through the machine and out into a drain tray, and you use another vinyl tube, and you go into a drain bucket. Perhaps you have a slightly better system than that, but for the most part, you are either doing this or did this, and there's not a whole lot of graduation to that for most people for a number of reasons, some of which we're going to talk about right here. I am over it. I am absolutely over it. I am not doing that anymore. I am going to be running a plumbed line from my house into this shop, which will be heated, and we will be feeding water permanently. I'm not going to be hauling buckets of water. I'm not going to be moving pumps. I'm not going to be doing none of that. Let me show you what I got here. Plumbing is both expensive and frustrating because it requires no less than 5 visits to the store because you will not have everything you need. I probably don't have everything I need here. Well, here is my game plan. I have a utility sink in my basement, and I have copper pipes in the walls. So this is kind of the view of the connection I'm gonna make. Copper comes in here with a little compression fitting into this T. I'm going to be switching to 1/2-inch PEX. I'll explain to you what some PEX is. We have a, well, I think you call it a threaded nipple there, and that's going to go to this shutoff valve, which is going to have 1/4-inch PEX, compression fit, and that's going to go to my other utility sink. So I'm basically teeing off, and we're going to be assembling this. Well, I'm going to do this myself. We're going to assemble this using this stuff. First off, speaking of tapes, these tapes here, these thread sealing tapes, they suck. This stuff, better than all of that is the liquid, this stuff, right? Also, side note, I love these things. And so this is coming from somebody who knows between 1 and 3 things about plumbing. This is the opener for these cans so that you don't mash the lid of the can and then it dries out and you end up throwing a lot of it away. So worth it. Okay, so this goes out of the wall and we tee off, and the PEX is going to come out here to the workshop. If you don't know what PEX is, well, it's this stuff. I'm going to be using 1/2-inch PEX, crimp. So you need a crimp tool. This guy, I've had this guy a long time. I've done PEX before, and it's pretty simple as far as plumbing goes. So as an example, right, you put a ring on your PEX ahead of time. In this case, we'll take this 90 degree. You slide this guy up. You use your crimp tool, okay? It crushes this metal ring, and it makes a watertight connection. And we check that watertight connection with a go, no-go gauge. And you can see it's on crimped right now, so this won't fit over it. But if it does fit, you're good to go. And that is the basics of running PEX. Now, there's all kinds of different PEX fittings. Wait, is that not right? There we go. There's all kinds of different PEX fittings. Here I have 90s and different valves and stoppers and connectors and T's and all of that stuff. And to give you an idea, it's like this valve right here is a $12 valve. And to confuse you even a little bit more with this whole PEX thing, there's A and B, and they can't be interchanged. So it does get really, really complex. And I see why people don't necessarily do plumbing of lapidary shops, because it's expensive and frustrating. I will give you a piece of advice. Do not attempt to do this on the weekend. This is a weekday only project, so stores are open and you have the ability to run to said store and get the things that you definitely forgot. Okay, I'm gonna get to doing some plumbing. Once I get this water out to the shop, we are going to continue this. So that's where the plumbing comes in, runs up and along the top of the wall there, and we're coming down and we're going to go into the sink. Typically, PEX line is buried in walls. Obviously, I'm doing it all exposed so that I can work on it later, add in things, all of that stuff. It's just a better way of doing it in a shop. Here is a piece that is completed, and I need to make another one of these. I already kind of started, so we're going to connect this end here, and I want these to be kind of, well, they gotta be kind of perfect, really. Put this little guy on there first. Put that on there. The crimp tool is incredibly difficult to do. It's just very takes a lot of force, and if you're in an awkward position, then it's not fun. One thing that you can do too is kind of line it up. We want this as even as possible, and you can give it like a little crimp like that, and you can kind of adjust and still push it in a little bit and get it just where you want it, and then come back and you know, give it the real squeeze. I think there's like a actual tool for this where it's like a, you know, like kind of like Milwaukee makes it, it's like a gun or something. And then sometimes you'll do this and it won't go all the way. Like it's like just like not perfectly kinked or crushed down, and you can kind of come in here maybe from a different angle and give it a little extra crush, and there we go. We're on there. So before I put the sink back in place, I'm going to show you how this looks. So obviously, hot and cold come down. You go into the supply lines, okay, and obviously these are very easily accessible, and being that it's PEX, it's kind of has a little bit of wiggle to it, which is fine. Extra long supply lines so that I can move the sink in and out if I need to in the future. These, well, okay, so those tee off of the hot and cold. Those hot and cold lines. I want warm water to feed all of the machines, not hot, not cold. So I'm looking around, I'm trying to figure out what the best way is to accomplish that. I'm thinking shower mixer. There's thermal regulators that auto-regulate, and you buy one for a specific temperature. I didn't like that. I went with this. So this clicks and you can rotate the temperature or get the temperature to whatever it is that you want, okay? And these are relatively affordable on Amazon. Here's the thing, what they don't tell you is that these are for Britain. Yeah, Britain. And in Britain, they have a different thread. Here we use the National Pipe Thread, NPT. So this showed up, and obviously I can't go Great British Thread whatever to PEX. That doesn't work. So I found an adapter. Obviously they're not an adapter to go from British threads to NPT threads in small town Utah. So that meant ordering it and waiting. So I have those, and then so Even still with the adapters, there's like a little bit of jiggle on this thing. Like, you know, you could put these on and loosely thread them. Typically, the way metal on metal threads work is they're cut like kind of a cone, and that cone gets tighter, and then you get a tight fit, and then that's why when you use the goop and the thread tape and all that stuff, and it's supposed to title it, right? I'm sure somebody that's a plumber could explain it better than that. Even still, it wasn't working, right? Like it was still with like 3 wraps of thread tape. So I did like belt and suspenders operation here. So, you know, here's the unit, then the adapter, then my PEX piece. And there's like 10 wraps of thread tape plus the liquid thread sealer. I saw a thing on YouTube from some guy that's like a union plumber, and he's like, said that they will belt and suspenders it, meaning the liquid thread sealer and the thread tape. So I'm gonna try it. Hopefully this thing doesn't leak. I guess this is like a safety device for like, I don't know if you have like an old person or a little kid and they don't understand how hot water and cold water works. So you can put the hot and cold in on one side, you set it, and then the one comes out no matter what. That's the concept here. Now my problem is, how do I mount this thing? I want this guy like up on the wall here, right? Like ideally I have hot and cold coming in here, and then the one going this way being the one that regulates. But if it was just mounted up here, you can't twist this all the way because it's, look at the shape of it, right? So then I'm like, how do you do this? You can't put just like a spacer block because now it's gonna rock. So I have to like custom make a thing now so that I can have this be up here, right? And then twist it and get the desired water temperature to the machines. And I think I might live to regret this. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see, I'm gonna try it. Obviously I'm gonna check everything for leaks like a million times over. There's gonna be a million shutoff valves on all the different things in here. And yeah, this thing, why would they even sell something designed for Britain in America? Silly. Well, the plumbing is done. I'm very happy with how this came out, and it is one of the coolest setups. I've never seen anything else even remotely close to this. In a lapidary shop, let me show you what I've been working on. Hey, okay. Yeah, all right. We have this stupid water mixer in, and it doesn't leak, which that's great. We move over to a cutoff valve, and this energizes the whole system. And I even plumbed in points where future machines like this arbor will go. So I can throw that, I can open up these valves and get water down into this distribution block. The PEX runs around, and the first thing that we utilize here is this. This is a filler for the saw and the dripper for the flat lap. So this one does double duty, and it's like all of these things. You can open and close it and be good and have that be separate from the rest of the system. Moving right along, we have, this one was a little tough to figure out, but we have the wet belt sander. And with the double nozzles on here, and you can see how it just moves out of the way for changing the belts. That's great. I love this stuff. This is lock line. I'm using 1/4 inch lock line here, and you can see how that all functions, and it's plumbed for 2 extra fittings in the future, which I could send that to this one. The end of it here, we're also plumbed for 2 extra fittings, as well as these lines going to the arbor. I also added a piece I can snip off at the end if I ever want to extend it out. So where does all this water go, you might be asking? Well, it goes outside. After all, it is just clean water with some rock dust in it. Here's the plumbing coming out of the sink. We run around. We have quite the little pitch to it, to that fitting right there. The other end runs to here. And while I still need to connect the machines, but that is simple. All I'm going to do is I need some silicone tubing, and that's going to run from all of the machines. And I'm literally going to just drill a hole in the top of the pipe and stick the flexible line in. This is the outside of the shop. This is where the line makes the exit. It's still a little sticky. And we come down and we just come out where the gutter comes out. I think if Mr. Josh, Aklawaha Boy Rocks, ever recommends a whiskey to you, you should follow his advice. This stuff's pretty good. I don't care. It's the middle of the day. Who cares? I'm done with this huge, huge project, okay? And I guess I'm not really done. I don't believe a workshop is something you're ever going to be done with. You know, it's a work in progress. I still have things that I need to do out here. I need to connect these machines, but that's just a couple pieces of tubing. Right now I have a space heater out here. I have a big natural gas heater that I need to install a chimney for. That's going to be all new for me. But it is a space that I'm very happy with. And it's a space that I can grow into, which that kind of leads me to the next thing. I would like to talk to you about the future of this channel, what I would like to do. It's kind of big. It's going to take a long time, but as you know, over that way, I have a bunch of extra space. I haven't even set up my slab saw yet, right? Like, I have to go buy a bucket of oil. There's things that I still need to do. But what I really want to do, this is big long-term goal, is I want to build small batches of lapidary machines, okay? And I'm not talking about making rock tumblers, making cab machines. No, I have some very good, interesting, unique ideas. And I would like to do some small-scale manufacturing of machines, but not just make machines and sell them. I want to show you how to make them. So those of you out there with the tools and the skills and the knowledge to do so could follow along and build your own machines. Those that do not, well, you could buy a couple maybe. Now, I need a stand-up mill, a milling machine, a metal milling machine, like a knee mill. Think Bridgeport, okay? I need a lathe, a metal lathe. I need like a 36-inch lathe or something like that on the floor units, and I can start that. So I'm in the market for those things. It's gonna take a couple of years probably though. So if you're watching this, maybe we'll do some follow-ups. I really want to do this. I really, really, really want to do that. Yeah, I think that about wraps it up. The shop is now functioning. I have machines that I can finish. I got projects I can work on, and I am super duper stoked for the future. Thank you all. Thank you all who support this project on Patreon. Thank you all who just watch these videos here on YouTube and have done so for years. You know, I spent a long time out in the shipping container, freezing my butt off. People leaving comments saying they could see my breath, right? And to be able to have insulation, heat, water. My dog is over on her bed right now. I'm just very pleased with how all of this has came out, and I can finish the little things over the coming winter or so. Wow. I'll leave this one here, everybody. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you in the next video.